Hello everybody, and welcome to this video to explain to you how to write a really good poetry paper. Alright, so if you've been through this before, but if you've forgotten, what I'd like for you to do is to open up the instructions on the poetry paper so you can follow along with what I'm doing. I actually have printed them off in hard copy, but you don't have to do that if you don't have a printer. It's sufficient just to go ahead and open the file and then basically have it maximized on your screen. You don't really need to look at me anyway, because all I'm going to do is sit here and talk to the camera and maybe look down at my notes. So you're not going to miss anything terribly exciting if you have this like in the way. So go ahead and open those instructions, and I'll just pause for a second. You can hit the pause button, open the instructions, and then come back when you're ready. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about this poetry essay. Writing about poetry is going to be a little bit different than writing about the prose. And in your My Blank English book that you were supposed to buy for this class, and hopefully you've had since English 1101, there's a really good chapter on how to write effective poetry papers, and a couple of sample student essays that will show you that as well. There's also a neat little checklist, which I have included on the back of these instructions, which is on page, if you're in the second edition of My Blank English book, it's page 196. But refer to your instructions, because if there's a later edition, then the page number may have changed. So take a look at that chapter, because writing about poetry is a different skill than writing about an actual short story. So take a look at your timeline. If there are early drafts due, make sure you get those early drafts in on time. If you have to have a conference with me, because this is actually a face-to-face class, then go ahead and make sure you're on time to that conference, because I can't help you if you don't show up. If this is a class that only requires a final draft and does not require early drafts, again, just like with the prose essay, if you want to run something by me, give me time to actually read it. Don't submit something to me at 8 o'clock on the night of the due date and expect me to get any notes back to you. But if you give me a couple of days, I'll be glad to take a look and see if I can help you. Alright, so pay attention to that due date, because I'm going to try to start grading these essays right after that due date. So you'll get a 0 if you don't have it in on time. Alright, length of the essay, about 400 to 750 words, which is about 2 to 3 well-written pages in MLA format. And remember, formatting is part of the grade. So here's the instructions. You're only going to write about one poem. You're not going to write about multiple poems. You're not going to write about multiple poets. You're only going to pick one poem, and you're going to concentrate on that one poem. And you're going to write a well-planned out, coherent essay that argues the point you're trying to make. One thing you might want to do is go to the page that's on here in the My Blank English book. Find 9 questions. These are 9 questions to help you analyze this poem and help you to understand this poem. Those 9 questions can be a good launching point, because sometimes people read a poem and they say, well, I like this poem, but what the heck would I write about it? Well, if you answer those 9 questions, really one of those should pop out and say, paper topic. Now there's a couple of questions like, how did you feel when you read this poem? You won't write a poem. You won't write a paper about that. I really don't care how you felt about the poem. What I care about is that you can understand the poem well enough to give me a good analysis of it. So answer that question, but you don't have to put it into your paper. And sometimes there's there might be some overlap between a couple of questions, but really one of those answers should speak out and say, this would be a good paper topic. So answering those 9 questions on whatever page this is a good place to start. Alright. And then again, note, when you write the essay, you only concentrate on one 9. I've had students try to write a paper that answered all 9 questions in a single 2-page paper. You can't do it. It's impossible. You cannot write a good essay on 9 different things in 2 pages. Pick one thing and write a good paper on that. Alright, so this is just a way to help you generate an idea. Alright, ways to generate ideas. Of course, this is at the bottom of this first page. Answer 9 questions. Depending on your textbook, you can probably look at the end of the poem or at the end of the poet's biography, and there are some questions there to think about. Now, it depends on the textbook, because I could be teaching out of a textbook that doesn't have any questions with the poems. But if I do, you can look at those poems and take a look and see if that will help you. Go through my PowerPoints on D2L. Those PowerPoints are designed to help you to understand the poem better. And usually I don't give you a step-by-step synopsis of the poem. I bring up themes, or I bring up images, or I bring up whatever is important about that particular poem. And somehow, if you go to those PowerPoint presentation and take a look at them, one of those little bullet points I have in there might be an aha. That's what I can write about moment. So that could be an idea. And if all else fails, discuss the poem with me during my office hours. And I'll probably start off with the question, what did you like so much about this poem? And then we'll go from there and try to lead you to a topic that you can actually write the poem about. So make sure that you, if you're stuck for ideas, take a look at the bottom of this first page. All right. I said this on the prose essay. I'll say it again on the poetry. Do not visit a website like Wikipedia or SparkNotes. A lot of times people can visit those websites, try to get ideas, and then they end up plagiarizing on accident. An accidental plagiarism gets the same zero that an on-purpose plagiarism gets. How do you not have that problem come up? Don't visit the doggone website in the first place, and you'll be fine. All right. My expectations. I do not want a poem summary. Do not give me a summary. The poem opens up with this and that and that. And one poem that's real easy to summarize is Harlem by Langston Hughes. It's real easy for students to get caught in that summarizing trap as they go through the questions. Remember, I want an analysis, not a summary. Summaries get low grades. Foreground and logos, not pathos or ethos. This is where that whole, I said, even though you might answer question number 1 in the My Blank English book about how did you feel when you read this poem, don't make that your paper topic. I don't care how the poem made you feel. What I care about is that you actually can use your noggin to analyze that poem and come to a informed conclusion. I do expect direct quotes. There is a handout in the poetry essay on how to properly format poetry quotes. Please, for goodness sakes, open that document up and follow the rules in there as you quote these poems. Because if you don't, you're going to lose points on the actual formatting. And then specific details, don't be vague. Don't use words like this or some say or, those or something like that. Use specific terms. Specific details will always get you better grades than vague words will. All right, then we got the rubric here. So I'm going to be scoring your poem based on the following rubric. Formatting 6 points. Again, just like with a prose paper, that should be an easy 6 points. You just open up the MLA template document that's in the MLA folder, and you follow those instructions step by step, and you will have a perfectly formatted paper in 12-point Times New Roman font, double spaced, no extra space between the paragraphs, and your headers and your margins will be correct. Thesis statement. I'm not going to go through these in as much detail as I did with the prose paper, but you have to have a thesis statement, folks. The thesis statement tells the reader in one sentence what that paper is about. I, as a teacher, need to analyze your paper and decide whether you have made whatever points it is you're trying to make or not. If you have a thesis statement, I have something to go on. If you don't have a thesis statement, then I don't know what you're trying to write about, and your paper grade will probably suffer for it. So a good, solid thesis statement, it should ideally be the very last sentence of your opening paragraph. Remember, this is only about a 5-paragraph essay. So your first paragraph is the opening, the 3 in the middle are the development, and then, of course, the conclusion. And that brings me right to the next point, which is organization and structure. You should have an opening paragraph that introduces the essay, ends with a thesis statement, 3 main points that you develop through specific details and through direct quotes, and then the conclusion at the end. You've probably been told in English 1101 that conclusions have many purposes, and that is true, but for the purposes of this class, you're usually only going to go either with summary or emphasizing whatever you think is most important in the paper. Those are usually the 2 kinds of conclusions you're going to have in this particular class. It's not likely you're going to try to warn the reader about some impending doom that's coming or forecast that after reading this poem, somebody might think blah. No, don't do that. Just summarize what you said or emphasize some important point. The main primary points, these are the main points. Usually they can be expressed in the thesis statement as well. So, for example, Daddy, Sylvia Plath deals with the grief of having lost her father by A, B, and C, whatever that is. And then those will be your main points. A will be your main point. You give me the details and quotes to back that up. B, the next point, give me the details and quotes. And then C, likewise. Supporting details, that is where you actually explain the main points. And you need to give specific details. Remember, that's what it says in my expectations. I expect specific details, not words like this or those or some or anything like that. Give me the details that will help you out. All right, quotations formatting. If you don't have any direct quotes, you can't get any credit for formatting quotes properly because you'll have no quotes to have formatted properly. Again, I just told you this probably 5 minutes ago. I'll repeat it now. Use that handout in the poetry essay folder that says quoting poetry. That handout will give you the exact information you need to get a perfect 10 out of 10 on this. And then surface errors. You have got to be able to spell your words properly. You have got to be able to use commas properly. Your subjects and your verbs must agree. Your subjects and your pronouns must agree. You have to write in complete sentences, not fragments. You can't run your sentences together. There should be the correct punctuation between sentences. If you're going to write on a collegiate level, you're going to do fine in this class. If you're going to write on a third grade level, then you're going to find yourself struggling to get through this class with passing grades. So, the surface errors is a very important component of this essay. That's why it's a quarter of the grade. And then, of course, you got to note that there's a checklist on some page. Of course, you can look at the page number here, depending on what edition of the book we got. That'll help you before you turn the essay in for a grade. All right, so that's it. That's the poetry paper. That's what you need to know to write a really, really good paper on a poem. Remember that you can call me during my office hours, you can send me emails, you can drop by and visit me during my office hours, and you will be able to get the help that you need. I'm making myself available to you. Utilize that resource if you feel like you need to.